Good afternoon, everybody. We're going to get this started, and I'll say welcome to our all-hands meeting. I do have a couple thank yous to say, first of all, as we get moving. First of all, to Janesville Performing Arts Center for opening up the theater for us. They do this as a matter of routine. I don't think it costs us as much as it would for a normal rental, and so they give us a public partner discount. And so we just want to say thank you to JPAC for helping us out. Also to our JATV crew that's in the back, we want to say thank you. They do a great job of taping these events so that for those that can't attend, they can go ahead and have those for viewing at a later date. I think we've got Council President Markline. I'm not sure where he ended up. You could raise your hand. There he is over here. So he's in attendance. Thank you very much. And I didn't see any other council members that attended or that are here. So if there is anybody, please raise your hand. I don't see any. Nope. So we're going to move on. And then I just want to say thank you to my office staff for putting this together. First of all, Carrie takes lead in coordinating it, setting it up, and making it look nice. And so we want to say thank you for that. Maggie is going to be our narrator during the Mighty Oak Award presentations later in the presentation. Molly is going to be our official photographer, and so thank you, Molly. And then Jordan, he was the pack mule, I think, just carrying stuff in and out, right? Is that how that works? Okay. So to my office, thank you very much for helping out. And with that, we're going to get started with a quick video, but what I did want to share with you is about 2 weeks ago, I had an opportunity to attend a presentation right here in JPAC called Tales of Downtown, and it was essentially a story about all the things that go on and have gone on over the years in our downtown. A lot of great historical photos, a lot of great commentary as far as how people have seen and grown up in the downtown, which I thought was very nice thing to do. And then one of the things that kind of rang true with me is there was a song that was written, both the music and the lyrics, locally by Tess Wynn. She's in the back in the orange. And just want to say thank you to Tess for writing the song, This is Janesville. And we wanted to share that with you before we get started. So if we could go ahead and play the video.
On the rock, all the people did flock to our Janesville. Janesville. Make no mistake, they just knew it'd be great here in Janesville. Janesville. The settlers built up a town, brand new businesses seen up and down. On the river they gather around to celebrate. Isn't it great?
Wow, we sure grew, farming industry too. This was Janesville. Janesville. We served in the battles, 4-H showed our cattle in Janesville. Janesville. More housing and roads paved so new. Population expanded and grew.
On the river they brought quite a crew to celebrate. Isn't it great? Great families moved here, even made our own beer. This is Janesville. 51 and Racine, 26 and 14. This is Janesville. We're known as the city of hearts. Now new changes are lighting a spark. At the river the folks made their mark. Let's celebrate. Isn't it great? Now we're growing, we're swinging, the trolley bells ringing, and merchants are singing. This is Janesville.
We've got sports, we've got art, music down in the park. This is Janesville. Janesville. See the Rock Aqua Jays or at JPAC the plays down in Janesville. Janesville. When everything's all said and done, it's the people who make life here fun. On the river they gather as one to celebrate. Isn't it great?
On our chairs in the shade we might watch a parade. This is Janesville. Janesville. A new park, a new alley, improving the valley for Janesville. Janesville. Yes, we had Parker Penn. We worked at GM. In a way, hit a bump. Boy, we suffered a slump. Now we're coming back swinging. The trolley bells ringing and merchants are singing. This is Janesville.
Very nice. And so to Tess, I just want to say thank you very much for believing in Janesville and putting this song, this production together. We appreciate your efforts, not only here at JPAC, but certainly at the Rock County Historical Society. So again, thank you very much for your efforts. Please give Tess a round of applause. Thank you again. Okay, so we're going to get on with the all hands. We've got a lot of things to cover, and so next slide. So if you remember last March during our all hands meeting, I talked a little bit about the concept of adaptive thinkers and being an adaptive thinker. And there were these two quotes that I think really speak to who we are as an organization and what's important to us, and that is that we're always looking for ways to improve. And so these two quotes, I'll read them to you. Imagine where you would be if accepting change wasn't in your wheelhouse. Where would you be? Answer: nowhere. And then people, teams, and companies must embrace change if they want to move forward. To change is to learn, and to learn is to succeed. And I think that's what we see happening within the city of Janesville. And change is hard, folks. There's no doubt about it. But if there's change to improve and make the organization better, we certainly want to pursue that. We certainly want to embrace that. We don't want to shy away from it. It's never too hard because it's the right thing to do. And so from that, I just want to talk to you, next slide, a little bit about, if you think about the past 6 months. So the last time we met was March. And there's just a lot of stuff going on. And these are simply a few things that I think are important to highlight, but starting in the upper left, GM plant demolition is underway. If you remember back in March, that hadn't even started yet. They didn't start removing or taking down buildings until about the middle to late April. And I talked with the guy that's running the program right now, 2 nights ago, and he said that they're 60% complete. So when you think about the assembly plant structure, 60% of that is down. For those of you who have been inside the plant before, the main offices, when you walk in the entryway, the brick building part, and there's kind of a foyer, and there's offices to the left, and there's offices off to the right. And then you go back a little bit, and there's some doors that used to open up into the plant itself. Well, guess what? The plant itself, that's no longer there. That's just open space. And so it's just a significant, dramatic change to that parcel's landscape, certainly to our community's landscape, and frankly to the fabric of who we are as Janesville. And so it's an exciting change that's happened over these past 6 months. Up top center, the Tour of America's Dairyland Town Square Grand Prix. They came and talked to us in 2016 and said, would the city support something like that? And they were very concerned that the city wasn't going to support something like that where we had closed down the downtown. And we said, nope, absolutely. The city's here to support you. And we'll make this thing happen because that's the kind of thing we want to see happening in our downtown. And so, June, 26th it was, did the Tour of America's Dairyland Grand Prix. Frankly, they were so impressed to all the folks that were involved, and I know it hit just about every department and activity across the city. They were so impressed. They were like, this is the best event from a coordination, from a setup, and from a hospitality perspective that they've experienced on the other little communities that are providing similar kinds of races. And so they said, not only do we want to come back, but we're excited about coming back next June. And so that was something that the city had never done before. It was change. It was hard to do. We worked through it, and here we are 6 months later, and we've got a check mark and a success. And we're going to keep doing that. Up in the upper right-hand corner, Monterey Dam, 18 months worth of consternation and deliberation over whether we remove the dam, whether we don't. Frankly, I imagine Mike Payne would correct me and tell me that it's been years, but really the active stuff that we've been doing just in this last 18 months, pretty significant. And here we go, middle of July, the dam starts coming out, and if you go down there, you can start to see, what that new exposed landscape is going to look like, and then more importantly, what that future, how much space, that's really what's been telling to me, how much space when you drain the Monterey Lagoon, how much land that's going to open up for recreational use. And so that's a significant improvement for our community. But again, it was a change. You look lower left center, council chambers, a very nice renovation and upgrade there. Still working through some of the technology challenges. Hopefully we can get through those in the coming meetings, but a significant change. Next, where's the JPD bike officer? Chief, I don't know where we got that idea, but talk about an impactful addition to our summer activities in the community where we got kids excited about finding the JPD bike officer. And so that was just an extremely popular event and frankly showcases that great relationship that our police department shares with the community. So that was awesome. 2 hotels under construction. Remember, last time we had a hotel go in Janesville was the mid-1990s, and here we are now in 2018, and we've got 2 of them going up, and if one of those is successful back behind the old Menard site, we may see a third, and so, great news there. To the right, Town Square, Fitness Court, Court Street, all part of our Arise Downtown renewal plans, revitalization plans. Who would have thunk we would have had a fitness court in downtown that's free, open to the public, available 24/7. Court Street, I still every now and then see someone driving the wrong way. Fortunately, I don't think we've had any major accidents. Chief, am I good on that? Yeah, sweet. So, again, change is hard, but, there's goodness at the end. Lower left, received grants for 5 new buses. So, if you know anything about our bus fleet, we have 17 buses in the JTS fleet, and their lifespan is 12 years or 500,000 miles. Correct, Becca? Yes? Okay, good. And guess what? All 17 of our buses are way over that. They're either more than 12 years old or they're well over 500,000 miles or both. Bottom line is all of them should have been replaced some time ago. But a bus is, kind of like a fire engine. It's $500,000 for the vehicle itself. And so we typically borrow for that. We get federal grants, federal assistance, and we pay a local share of that. So far, over the past 3 years now, I think we've been able to accumulate grant awards in the amount of 6 buses. So we've got 6 buses that are scheduled to come in here in the next year or so. But then we just found out on, Tuesday or Wednesday, that the feds, the FTA, has granted us $2 million to get 5 more buses. So that brings us up to 11 buses that will be due in here over the next couple of years. And then to even sweeten the pot a little bit, on Monday night, the council approved us applying for another grant through the state that will potentially give us 5 more buses. So if that is awarded here by the first part of December, I understand, by the end of the year, we could be sitting awfully good in respect to having, 16 of 17 buses that have federal and or state funds dedicated to them to be able to buy. And so we're really excited about that, but I would imagine that if we get 16 buses, that would be probably the best shape that our fleet has ever been in, other than when it was first purchased, right? Yeah, so just a great news story. So thanks to JTS and to the NCS team for putting those packages together. Vacant building program. Corey, where's Corey? Yep, so we've got a new program inside Housing Services Division, and that is our vacant building program. Corey's our vacant building coordinator, something that the council approved last year as a program, and then we stood that operation up this spring. But that's really going, and that's a change. That's not something that we had 6 months ago. Now we've got it. He's on board, and he's out working commercial and residential properties that are vacant because, frankly, as you well know, we've got a lot of blighted properties around the town that need to be cleaned up and taken care of. And so working on that, and so kudos to the Housing Services Division for that effort. Transform your library fundraising. Where's Brian? There he is, okay, over here. So transform your library. The library is going through a transformation, and they're trying to raise $1.7 million, and to date, I think you're at 1.3, so you need 400, is that correct? Yeah, so, I mean, think about that. Well on their way to hitting their target goal of $1.7 million. They're replacing their roof this year, and then next year they'll go into an interior remodel and renovation of the library. And so it's a great project, certainly led well by Brian and his team, but more importantly, it's another example of community buy-in to all the great things that are going on in Janesville, because if it was just public dollars, we wouldn't be there yet, but because there are private dollars that have been applied to that, it's moving forward nicely. And then last one, this is a great news story for our fire department, certainly for our community, and that is our fire department's been recognized as number 3 in the nation. That's not number 3 out of towns that are 65,000. That's number 3 of all towns in the entire nation for cardiac survivability. So if you have some kind of cardiac event, and you call JFD, chances are, you're going to get through it, and they're going to get you to the hospital in time and get you taken care of. And so kudos to the fire department for that great effort. But great news story, great message for how we take care of people in Janesville. And so you think about all these things that have just changed in the last 6 months. That's just the last 6 months. And you know that there are a lot more out there, but these are just the ones that fit on the screen. But who's making those changes, all right? And that's you all. That's you and your teams. You all are having a significant impact, whether you appreciate it or not, having a significant impact on the community of Janesville, moving forward, meeting the needs of our community, and becoming more effective in what we deliver, and certainly more efficient in how we deliver it. And so I just, as always, want to say, next slide, thank you for your service, okay? I know that many of you, you choose to do what you do because you love what you do, and so do I. And so I just want to say thank you to all of you for choosing to be public servants, serving this community. And as the city manager, as the leader of the organization, I'm certainly proud of how this City of Janesville team operates, how you portray yourself in the community, and how you serve this community. And so again, thank you for your service. I'm certainly proud of you. Next slide. And so with that, we're going to move on and do our Mighty Oak recognitions. Since we've been doing these, Mighty Oak is a leader selected award. So, leaders in the organizations inside each of the departments are selecting folks. We do it twice a year, September and March, and the criteria: actively involved in the community, strong organizational values, multi-talented service, helps team in multiple ways, adaptable, flexible, and embraces change. Certainly qualities of an oak tree. When I think about an oak tree and how that translates to people, and our team certainly has a lot of these folks. It's always nice to see when someone puts either their resume out there or some kind of personal recognition, and they list received or recipient of the Mighty Oak Award. That tells me that people appreciate this and that they see value in it because they're being recognized by their leadership team. And so with that, we're going to recognize the following 6 Mighty Oak recipients for these past 6 months. So next slide. So in admin, Chris Leitz, DPW, Scott Truesdale, Hedberg Public Library, Michelle Dennis, JFD, Josh Ecker, JPD, Karen Burdick, and NCS, Tim Gorman. And so if the department heads would join me up on stage, and if the awardees would come to this side of the stage, we'll go ahead and get the presentations done.
Max, I see you smiling in the front. Don't you miss being up here?
If you remind the awardees to stop.
Yeah, I will do that. So I'm going to, Mark just read all the names, so after I call each of your names, if you could come up, get your picture taken, and then wait at the end to get a group photo taken. These individuals are mighty oaks in the city of Janesville. Like the mighty oak tree, these individuals have strong roots in the community, can withstand personal and professional trials due to inherent moral values, are multi-talented in their service to the city, and endure environmental changes without waiver. Their dedication to municipal government and public service reflects honorably upon the city of Janesville. So first, from the administrative departments, we have Chris Leitz from the assessor's office. Let's give him a round of applause. Chris joined the assessor's office in June of 2016. He's since received the 2017 Legislative Service Award from the Wisconsin Association of Assessing Officers for speaking on the dark store tax assessment loophole to the Wisconsin legislature. He now serves as a member of the Legislative Committee, keeping an eye on changes affecting the assessment process throughout the state. Chris is involved in the community by presenting tax and assessment information to first-time homebuyers during monthly homebuyers workshops. Chris has proven to be a team leader and has taken on many additional duties with the departure of a fellow coworker. He takes on each new challenge with his laid-back and positive personality. Congratulations, Chris. And from the Department of Public Works, Scott Truesdell. Scott is a hardworking employee who has been with the city just over 2 years, but many years ago worked for the city as a seasonal parks employee. He's currently an operator 2 at the wastewater treatment plant and is working his way up the progression. He's actively involved with his son's sports activities and coaches both his hockey and baseball teams. Congratulations, Scott. From Hedberg Public Library, Michelle Dennis. Michelle has taken on the task of being a leader on the floor by working with staff and patrons as the library strives to be more modern and service-driven. Michelle has fully embraced the transformational changes being made at the library and is a real floor general. She has done a wonderful job working with staff, training new employees, and cross-training others so that they have the skills needed to resolve issues and answer patrons' questions. Outside of the library, Michelle is very involved in the community's arts and theater community, having just helped in writing the script and directing the latest performance at JPAC, Tales of Downtown, Stories Through the Decades, which we just saw a song from. Michelle is very committed to the library and to the Janesville community, and she's a very worthy recipient of the Mighty Oak. Congratulations, Michelle. From Janesville Fire Department, Josh Ecker, who is being filled in by Deputy Chief Pankowskis. Josh is a model fire officer for the Janesville Fire Department. He understands the duty of the profession, takes pride in what they do, honors the tradition of the fire service, and understands the importance of progress for himself and the organization. Josh has a strong work ethic, extremely positive attitude, and is involved in numerous teams and committees for the department. Most importantly, Josh is truly concerned about his coworkers' goals and will do anything in his power to assist them in achieving the best. He even comes in on his days off to help further the success of the department and its people. Josh has a beautiful family and is extremely dedicated to the success of the department and the community. He volunteers for Salvation Army, ringing bells, plays music at his church, helps with the Gifts Men's Shelter, and the 4th Ward annual cleanup. So congratulations, Josh. From Janesville Police Department, Karen Burdick. Karen is a value member of the police department and is responsible for the police department's budget and assists with accreditation and UCR reporting responsibilities. Recently, she has accepted the role of records manager while the department seeks to fill this position. When her children were younger, Karen was very involved in activities at Craig High School. Congratulations, Karen. And finally, from Neighborhood and Community Services, Tim Gorman. Poor Tim Gorman has been the sole inspector in the property maintenance program since a position vacancy in April of this year. During that time, Tim conducted all complaint inspections for housing and nuisances in the city. Summer is the busiest complaint season, and the program addresses addresses thousands of complaints a year. During this busy time, Tim has been both efficient and productive to take care of the needs of the community and its citizens. In his spare time, Tim spends time with his family and plays drums in 2 different bands, 90 Proof and Floyd and Associates, which plays really good music. Tim's bands frequently do charity concerts for local not-for-profits and private fundraisers. Congratulations, Tim.
All right, and if we could get the next slide up there, please. So I always take the opportunity to also inform the city team about the leaders that are doing great things across the city formation. We have an award that we present during our managers meeting, the first managers meeting of every month, Thursday, and it's essentially focused on which one of the department division office heads from the previous month, has really done some heavy lifting or some lead paddling, if you will. Deputy City Manager and I are the ones that select somebody based upon something that they've done significant in the month previously. And then, like I said, we present that during the managers meeting. I would tell you over the last 6 months, those awards went to, in March, Gordy LaChance from IT. In April, Bill Ruckty from the fire department. In May, Max Gagan from finance. In June, Cullen Slapak from the parks division. In July, Mike Payne from engineering. And then in August, Paul Woodard from public works. And so if we could give them a round of applause, please. Next slide. So one of the things that came out of the Employee Engagement Task Force was during this September meeting was to talk to the team a little bit about the budget process. And so I wanted to kind of give you an update on where we are in the 2019 budget. And so if you look at this timeline, it kind of lays out the steps that we go through as a staff. And so we start down here, we end up here. It's essentially a process from August through December. And so on August 6th, we held a budget workshop, and that budget workshop was with the city council, and we essentially laid out for the city council kind of what our initial projection was, and then asked for their guidance and their approval of what we call our parameters. And so we did that with the council to kind of kick the ball off. Once we've got their guidance, we do our own internal staff budget orientation, and so we did that on August 9th. And then during the month of September, those department heads and division heads and office heads will come in and essentially lay out for me what their budgets are, what they need as far as additional resources, or what frankly, because we're more efficient or we're doing business in a better way, that they're able to decrease their budget. And my guidance going in was, this is a maintenance year. Let's see if we can't hold what we got, and that was really kind of where we're at. So we're holding what we got, and so we did that during the month of September. Just yesterday morning with the department heads, we went over kind of the final numbers of where we stand. That's called the reconciliation meeting, and now we're going to prepare the budget. We will take a look at our 5-year capital improvement plan discussion, and I think it's important for folks to appreciate this capital improvement plan. So these are all the big projects, either big equipment or that we're going to purchase, or any kind of infrastructure work projects that we're going to do. And I'm just here to tell you that we've been working through that for the last 2 months, and it's hard because we start with about an $8.5 million cap that we're trying to operate within each year from a general obligation perspective. And these are the kinds of things. Our road program is in there. All the the equipment, major equipment that we buy for the fire department, some of the equipment that we buy for the police department, the things that we do in our parks and in our recreation division, election equipment, things like that. That's all paid out of this fund. And right now, our road program's taken a pretty big chunk of that. And that's just what the community said. They wanted the roads fixed. And frankly, it's amazing to drive around town and see how nice the roads really are becoming, when we're knocking out 12 per year. So it's actually been very, very positive, but it takes a big chunk out of that. And so then we got to figure out, whatever's left over, how do we do all the other things that we want to do? And so we started out in 2019, I think we were well over $12 million, and we had to nug that down to 8.5. And then we looked at 2020, and frankly, we were at about $20 million. And so again, we had to nug $20 million down into 8.5. And then we had to go to 2021, and it was like $17 million, and we had to nug that down to 8.5. And then we got to 2022, down to 8.5. And so now 2023 is like the mega budget year from a capital improvement plan with well over $20 million in projects. But guess what? We can't buy or spend any more than about $8.5 to $9 million, so it just keeps kind of getting pushed off down the road. And it's not to say that it won't ever happen, it's just what are our priorities this year, and we keep working it from there. So it's tough to make those decisions, no doubt about it, and we always make sure that we try and keep the things that we've promised the community that we're going to do, we get those things done, and then try and give every department a little bit of love. So, a little bit to fire, a little bit to police, a little bit to parks and rec, et cetera, et cetera. And so that's just how we've been operating. But that's what we'll be doing with staff, is kind of get that approved and locked in. And then we move into a budget distributed to the council. They have an opportunity to look at it. Then we go into a budget presentation, a couple workshops. The council kind of gets satisfied that, the budget is good the way it is. And then we'll go into a change this year. Normally we've had 2 public hearings in November, but frankly, one is all people ever show up to, and so the second one really doesn't get a lot of attention. So we said, let's just do one this year. Then we've got the budget adoption, which is the second meeting in November. And then in early December, they adopt the tax levy and set the tax rate. And then, like all good operations, we conduct an after-action review in early December. One for the staff and then one for the council. And so that's our process. But, just think about it. That's a lot of work for the city staff to work through over that time period. So wanted you all to appreciate what that timeline looks like. And then next slide, this is big picture, if you will, of where next slide. Yeah, there we go. So this is big picture of where we're looking at for 2019. So this is what you need to appreciate. So revenue changes, we see an increase of almost $1.5 million in increased revenue. However, our projected expenditures for 2019 are 1.85, okay? Anybody seeing a problem set here? And then, oh, by the way, we're seeing $356,000 coming in for, or correction, that's what our short change is, 356, so that's that 1850 from 1494 is 356. But then, the state allows us to increase our levy from year to year, and we generally have to go to the max in order to make things work. And so if you notice, our gap was 356. We can raise our levy by 365. And so right now, we've got essentially a surplus of $9,200. Now, what that translates to traditionally is that means that the council can choose to spend that in some way, shape, or form, or what they typically will do is just reduce our draw off of the applied fund balance, which means we have essentially our reserves, and every year we have to go into our reserves by about $500,000 in order to make the budget work. So that's already factored in here. And so rather than drawing $500,000 off this year, we could draw off $490,000, for example. That's kind of how that works. But it doesn't, it's not like you don't have to tap into those reserves in order to make it work. We have to tap into reserves, make it work, and then at the end of the year, hopefully give some money back. But that's where we're at. It's a working draft. I know Max, wherever he's at, here he is, probably doesn't want to see any changes between now and then, but who knows? Something might end up changing between now and the 11th of October. But right now, that's kind of where we're at. So wanted you to just have that feel. We're comfortable where we're at. We think it's reasonable, but like I said, it's kind of a maintenance budget. You know, we're just trying to do the things we did last year, knowing that things that we did last year cost a little bit more this year. So next slide. Next thing I wanted to give you an update on is Town Square. So if you look at the Town Square, you know, back in January of 2017, we took out the parking deck, which was here, and we built the river lawn last year in the summer, the platform for the pavilion, the little dock, and the stairs down to the river. And so we kind of did that little bit right there last year. This year, we've been working on, obviously, River Street, which is our future festival street. We just dedicated the interactive water feature, which is right there, which was provided by Ford Foundation. Frankly, I don't think people appreciate what the cost of that thing was, but it was, let me think, we originally estimated around $200,000 to $250,000 cost. And the folks at Ford Janesville were like, that'd be nice, and it would be something very simple, but we really want something that's spectacular. We want something that's going to be a showpiece for the community. And so we got this $500,000+ interactive water feature. I mean, it's amazing. If you haven't been down there, I encourage you to go check it out. It's not only has sculpture, not only has water, but it has lights, it has music, and the kids that I've seen out there are just loving the water. But it's just one of those places where you can just sit down. You don't have to have kids. You can go sit and read a book, turn the music on, and away you go. I mean, it's just that nice. Watch the river. But just a beautiful addition to our downtown right there. And then right here, you saw the pavilion that went in. That pavilion was provided for by the Cullen family, and they dedicated it to J.P. Cullen, and that's a memorial pavilion in his honor. So, you know, kind of right now, this part is finished. We're working on the Festival Street, and what we're waiting on is there's a biofilter here that's going to get wrapped up as they finish up the Ice Age Trail connection. You've seen that there's some pylons out in the river, and there's some concrete slabs on top of that to about here, and they've got to bring it back around and connect it in here. You know, and frankly, until the water levels and the water speed slow down and drop, it's going to be a little while before they finish up that. But Public Works told me that we'll be able to open up River Street on the 12th of October for traffic, and then you know, keep moving on from there. One thing I will notice is we're going to hold on October 26th fun on the Festival Street. It's a city celebration, essentially a ribbon cutting ceremony for our Festival Street and for all things on the west side. Don't forget, there's a whole bunch of good parking that's also going to be put in right behind the IBEW building. Next update is Milwaukee Street Bridge right here on the 1st of October. We've got DOT is going to close down Milwaukee Street from River over to Main Street, and that will start to come down. That bridge will be taken down, and it will be built back up by next June. The idea or the thought is we want to make sure that that bridge is available for the next Tour of America's Dairyland bike race, and so that's really our intent there. Unfortunately, that bridge is going to cost the city about $1.3 million more than we had originally planned, just because, like I said, costs go up. We've got no control over that, and so when we said, where are we going to get this $1.3 million, we said, well, we're programmed to do the east side in 2019. Maybe if we just delay the east side until 2020, we can use the money that we've programmed for that, put it towards the bridge, and then borrow this money in 2020, and so that's what we're going to do. The other project that's going to happen in 2019 is the pedestrian bridge. The pedestrian bridge, again, I think it started out as about a $1.6 million project at max, and it's turned into something $2.5 or more million because it's got private interest in developers, if you will. The Janesville Foundation has put in $1 million towards it, and the Blaine Gilbertson family have put in another $1 million for that. And so it's well on its way to being fully funded by private donations, but that's going to be built in 2019. So at the end of 2019, we finished Court Street conversion. The west side's complete. Milwaukee Street Bridge is complete. the pedestrian bridge is complete. And then in 2020, we'll come back and do the east side, which is Water Street. It's some additional parking, a nice trail along the river's edge. There's a pavilion here called the Cope Ryan Pavilion. There's a fire pit. There's lounge chairs. Another nice place for you and your families and friends to go out and enjoy the river. So we're looking forward to that. And then we'll figure out what we do with West Milwaukee and then East Milwaukee, because those are our other two big road projects. But that's the town square update. Don't forget, we've got the fitness court down here just next to the transfer center. And then on October 15th, the demolition of the old Mercy Options building should start to come down. The city purchased that earlier this summer, and we'll turn it into green space because hopefully that gets developed here in the near future. All right, any questions on that? No? Okay, next slide, please. Next thing I wanted to give you an update is on the Employee Engagement Task Force. For the first, year or 6 months to a year, moving very aggressively, but we've kindly moved into that where it was easy to get things done before. Now we're into some of the trench work, if you will. It's going to take a little bit longer, but I'm happy to report, again, the EETF report had 43 recommendations. The executive committee, which was essentially the department head team, refined that down into 80 specific tasks. So far, of those 80 specific tasks, we completed 41. We got 17 tasks working. We still have 13 tasks not started, and then 9 tasks that we're just not going to undertake for a variety of reasons. But the good news is that, as expected, these things that weren't started, a couple more of those got started, so we're at 16%, which is downward from where we were back in March. Some of those are now being in the working status, so that's 21%, and that was an increase. And then again, those that were completed, we had some things completed, so that's an improvement also. So it's working right. It's a very long process, and so we still got a lot of work to do. Next slide. If you look at things that have been completed, that may be too small for some folks to see, but some of the things that have been completed just in the last 6 months. So we've got email access for all employees. So if you don't have a dedicated computer, you have a workstation in your workspace where you can get access. And that was one of the concerns raised by the task force. If anybody doesn't have email access or access to a computer in their work area, please let me know, because I want to get that right. We've educated employees on the use of the J Drive. That's kind of our central hub for gathering and storing information. If you don't understand the J Drive, again, please speak up, because I've gotten the report that everybody's good. Completed intergenerational relations training. That was a lot of the stuff that we did on millennials. We did some training through CIVMIC earlier this summer. We also did some training with LDA, and I know that there are a couple organizations that have done their own intergenerational training, and so that's now been completed. Some things that are working. We've created working group number 3, which is going to be focused on the professional development program and the budget. Paul Woodard is leading that working group. We stood up working group number 4, which is focused on performance evaluation system. Sue Music is leading that. Both of those working groups have until 1 April to provide their feedback back to me so that we can put that into effect from a budget and professional development program and budget perspective for the 2020 budget next summer. And then for the performance evaluation system, we want to put those in place so that in the 2020 to 21 performance evaluation system cycle, that whatever that new standard is what we're doing. And frankly, one of my specific recommendations to Sue is I want to look at how we get this down to 1 to 2 pages in length, because frankly, diving through 7 pages of performance evaluation paperwork just isn't my cup of tea, and so maybe we can get that down to 1 to 2 pages. Personnel policy review is underway. We've got an attorney that is running through that for the city. She's supposed to be complete by 1 December. We'll take those recommendations, and then our plan is to implement those recommendations, changing in that personnel policy system throughout 2019. The IT system review is underway. We are supposed to have our answers back by December 31st, and again, implement that in 2019. And then the last one is establish an intranet for better information sharing Our library currently has an intranet where when you turn on your computer in the morning, right now what comes up for me is my common screen with different folders and different programs and things like that on it. In the future, you'll turn your computer on and a page will come up that's a common page across the entire city, and it will have press releases, it will have calendar things happen in that day, it will have links to things like policies, council agenda items, you name it. I mean, we can design it however we want, but that intranet is going to be something that is very, very user-friendly, easy for you to get information, because that's one of our biggest challenges is diving into the J drive. It's always hard to find where stuff is at, okay? So that's where we're going with the EETF. Next slide. Back one, yep. So, wanted to talk to you real quickly about the health assessments. How am I doing for time? We're good. So we conducted our health assessments in May and June. We asked for everybody to participate, so our goal was 100%. We got about 90% of our city employees that participated, so kudos to all of you. Thank you for doing that. That helps us, to essentially appreciate what the health of the city workforce looks like, and then, more importantly, what we can do to help people lead healthier lives. And so it is the health assessment. They are voluntary, but there are incentives that apply for those who complete both portions of that health assessment. And when we look at the last time we did a health assessment in 2016 to where we're at in 2018, if you look, it's an improvement. So in 16, we had 243 people participate. In 18, we had 505. Of those 243, the average score was 57.2, and we're at 59.9 now. And you can take that for what it's worth. Maybe just the additional people that took it were just that much more healthy, or we're seeing just generally a healthier trend for the city. More to follow as we look at this over several years. Just as a reminder, we will conduct this annually. And then I just want to say thanks to all those folks that work on the Health Advisory Committee. We appreciate their diligence, their review, and their ideas on how we manage our health program, our healthcare program. And then to the Wellness Committee. Steve Williams, is he a detective right now? He is. So Detective Steve Williams has kind of taken the reins, leading the charge on our Wellness Committee. It's a great, great program for the city. We've thrown all kinds of things at them. Do we need, workout areas and showers in our city facilities? And if so, where and how do we fund them, and what's the best course? Because I think right now PD has a little workout area, and I know the stations have workout areas, but what do we do across the rest of the city? And then more importantly, how do we pay for that? How do we fund it? We've talked about things like vending machines having some healthy options in them, and I'm not talking about a granola bar as your healthy option. There's probably something better than just the granola bar. And the other thing that they've done, and I don't know if you're playing or not, but I've been having some fun with the health and wellness bingo. And so, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 blocks, but I'm not anywhere close to a bingo yet. So I'm working it. Anybody else that's participating in wellness bingo? I know we got a few, great. All right, well, give it a shot, because frankly, it's getting you to think outside the box and do something a little bit differently. One of the things that I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to get a block on, a check on, is try a new vegetable. I'm not sure what vegetable's out there that I haven't tried, but I got to figure that one out. So working on it. But just a lot of great work being done in the name of health assessments. And as you all know, this is a significant cost for the city. It really is. And so the healthier that we are today means that in a retired status, we'll just be that much more healthy, hopefully, and live longer, more productive lives. And so that's real quick on health assessments. I've got a couple slides. Next one. So kind of big picture, if you look at this is 16 over here, and this is 18 here. So in 2016, the red are people that were classified as high risk. And so the good news is in 2016 to 2018, we've dropped the number of people, or the percentage of people in the city that are high risk. Medium risk has gone up slightly. I'm not so sure if that's a good or a bad news story, unless they were formerly high-risk people. And then, again, from a good news story, 16 low-risk percentage has increased from about 12 up to about 15%. And so The indicators, again, this is only 1 year into it, are positive, but we'll see where we trend out after about 3 to 5 years. Next slide. So health assessments, some of the things that they'll show here, red is 2018, the blue is 2016, and so these are things where you can help yourself by taking some kind of positive action. So whether it's your body mass index or your weight, your blood pressure, stress, blood sugars, do you exercise or not? What's your emotional health? And then, are you a smoker? But you can see that, for a BMI weight, for example, 2016, we were at just above 80% of things that are modifiable risks, and now we're up to about 85%. So got some work to do. But if you look at that, it just trends to the fact that we've got a lot of improvement that is possible. Next slide. Okay, so kind of a generic plug here, but if you remember, every November we do our United Way campaign. This one, and everyone since I've at least been here, has been conducted during the month of November. Our city POC, like last year, is Maggie Dar. Departments can assign their own POCs to kind of help gather the information and reach out to folks. Our goal is certainly 100% contact. Doesn't mean that we have to have 100% give, but we want to make sure that everybody at least understands what this program is about. So the intent is to get 100% contact. And so kind of summarizing where we were at last year, so the city raised about just over $20,000. Average donation was about 117. The number of donors that we had were 173 employees. And then, nicely, we had some of our council members that joined us this year. Or this past year, and so 173 folks participated. And then when you look at the campaign, we had an 8.6% increase from 2016, and so that's 1 month away. And so we'll do our kickoff in early November, and we hope that if you feel so inclined, this is a great way to give back to the community. Next slide. Okay, so one of the things that was one of the, recommendations from our Employee Engagement Task Force report was, during this meeting, people don't like being called on or asked to provide questions on the spot. And so we've stopped that, but what we have done is we've gone into the system of, Carrie will send out a note to everybody if you've got a question that you want asked during the all-hands meeting, that we'll put it up here and we'll answer it. And so I just wanted to kind of run through these. I'm going to read these, and we'll just talk through them. So first one is, I recently heard that the city of West Dallas now offers its employees 2 options with respect to sick time. One is separate time banks for vacation time and sick time, and then 2 is a combined time bank that can be used in either situation. Is this something that could be or has been considered in the city of Janesville? Well, talking with Sue Music, where's Sue? Back here, she did some research with the city of West Dallas, determined that not so sure this is an accurate portrayal of what's going on in West Dallas, because we can't find anything that would reflect this, but certainly something we could look at. But I would tell you that based upon her message to me is that we have, the city has looked at this before and concluded that people would actually lose options and or time as opposed to it being a better situation. Is that fair enough to frame it like that? Yeah. And so we may take a look at this. I'll tell you, with the personnel policy review revisions and things we're going to be doing in 19, I just don't see taking on another task like this in 19. I think we got our hands full with the personnel policy review. Next one is, last year, the city had 2 employee work groups established to make recommendations on 1, implementation of the city's flex time policy, and 2, improving the annual cyclical training program. Can you provide follow-up on the outcomes of these 2 work groups? And so, answer, yes, I can. So, city's flex time policy, 2 pieces to that. Number 1 is just basic office courtesy. One of the things that I've stressed, not only in my own office, but certainly with the department heads, is that you got to find that right work-family balance, right? And so, if somebody has a family event, school meeting with a child at a sporting event, a spouse that's getting some kind of recognition at work. We as supervisors ought to be very, very sensitive to that and make sure that we accommodate and help them get to that. And if we need to flex time in order to do that, well, then do that. I mean, that's what good supervisors, good leaders do. And so I would encourage you to be sensitive to other people's needs when it comes to meeting, personal or family obligations. The other piece of that is really the policy and what that looks like. And so in our personnel policy review that attorney is doing this fall, that's one of the things to look at is what do we need to do to our FlexTime policy, to make it more flexible. I know you don't like to hear that, but how do we improve that, I guess, is the best way to say that. And so we'll take a look at that based upon those recommendations. And so I think we're moving forward positively on that one. The next one was this idea of improving the annual cyclical training program. And so, we had a group that provided us essentially a list of all the CIVMIC training courses, but then told us that, frankly, they weren't expert enough to figure out who needs to go to those. And so it really didn't play out as well as we had hoped it would. I will tell you that, we've done a couple things from a training perspective that I think are important. Number one, last year and again this year, the HR staff will publish the next year's annual training program on 1 October, and so they're poised to do that. We've already locked in, coordinated that entire training program, so you know what is coming, when it's scheduled, what days they are, what times, whether it's mandatory, whether it's not. And, I've worked that with HR. But I don't necessarily know, nor has anybody provided me any feedback of, is this too much, is it not enough? And so if you have that kind of feedback or that kind of information, I'd love to hear that, but we didn't get that from the work group. And so we're kind of at a loss for someone telling us what's wrong with the current training program, okay? And so if you have thoughts on that, you can talk to HR, you can certainly talk to me, but we're gonna move forward with our 2019 program because it's gonna roll out next, is that Monday or Tuesday? Monday, okay. Time flies, right? Third question is there a reason why there were no requests for volunteers for the United Way Day of Caring this year? Well, we generally don't ask individuals across the entire city to volunteer. We ask departments to form teams. And so all departments were notified of, hey, guess what? This is the day, this is the event. If you have a team and want to put together a team, you can. And so frankly, we had 6 teams that got formed. And so if you were in a department that didn't produce a team, that's something you may want to have a conversation about within your department. The teams that did come up, DPW provided 4 teams. The city manager's office produced a team, and Housing Services Division produced a team. And so if there are others out there that want to produce and participate in a team, I encourage you to do so. The opportunities are there. We had a great day. It was a great way to, kind of impact the community. The folks that were on the DPW team, all 4 teams were out at, what was the name of the child care facility? Janesville Daycare or Janesville Community Daycare. So we had 4 teams of 5 out there, so 20 folks. And then at the project that I worked on, it was the parsonage for the pastor of the Wesleyan Church that's on Milton Avenue, kind of on the north end of Milton Avenue. And so city manager's office and neighborhood and community services teams essentially painted 3.5 sides of that house, 2 coats. But we ran out of time for the last little upper portion on the back. So they were going to finish that up. And it's just about that time. So with the push for health, has anyone thought about having a shower available at City Hall? It would be nice to ride a bike to work. And we do have a shower. It's actually down in Rex storage area. And so my hope is that Wellness Committee will be able to take a look at that in their review of, workout facilities and obviously locker room or shower facilities across our city facilities and how we can do something like that. So that's in the works, but I don't have a good solution right now, although I know there is a shower. If you coordinate nicely with Shelley Slapek, maybe she would let you use the shower in that facility. But remember, isn't it an open door? Yeah, it's an open door, so you may get surprises, okay? Is it a closed door? Okay, well then you got some privacy. Okay, fair enough. All right, next slide. So we're right on time. I'm sorry I'm right on time. I just want to say thank you for your time. As I said, I appreciate all that you do. You are doing wonderful, remarkable work for the community of Janesville. It doesn't matter what department you work in. The city is very appreciative. I get people that tell me all the time, hey, the city's doing great, and I really appreciate all that, the city staff is doing. And so I just want to relay that to you, that the community does recognize what you do. They appreciate what you do. You're an important part of this community, and say thank you for what you do. If you want to contact me, my number's up there, email's there. I encourage you to use my open door policy. Call, email, I will respond, okay? Thank you very much, everybody. Have a great one.